Penguin Random House Audio presents The Hypocrite by Joe Hamya. Read for you by Claire Kinson.
1. To be an artist is to have your creation obey you. But parenthood is the opposite of art. The created object, the child, can become instead an uncontrollable source of destructiveness. 2. I find that I do not believe in the child killing as a literal event. Ours is a world in which psychological and actual violence have become mutually distinct. The killing no longer means what it might have. Actual violence is rudimentary and mute. Psychological violence is complex and articulate. Rachel Cusk, Lions on Leashes, from Coventry, 2019. Preview. Decision to leave. There was summer, a beach, a country they were still getting used to in the early stages of their holiday. There was a map of tourists on the sand, with bared stomachs on striped towels, rows of skin pillowed up to brown in the sun. There was, ahead, the shoreline, the plastic rainbow litter of miniaturized buckets and trowels. Other people's husbands standing desultorily over their spawn while their wives took a break, took Aperol, wore designer sunglasses, half-watched little sand huts being drawn up, the erection of child-sized city-states on the coast, subject to parental patience and barely developed motor skills. There were teenage girls in their first bikinis flirting with the local boys, and officiate beach wardens in navy polo shirts and navy shorts, lips half pursed around their whistles, eyes flickering to them, then away. August, Sicilian Islands. Sophia had taken her father out to sea. It happened naturally. She tugged his hand. She was at that point so much smaller than him. Her cheeks were as soft as the just-forming paunch of his stomach. The sides of her mouth were bearded with pulverized peach flesh and clinging beach grit. Her fingers were unpleasantly sticky. She did not look like a serious person, but when she said, "We go now," he hadn't been able to imagine staying still. He took her hand and made himself move. It was hard. There was her little hand tugging, and the task of stooping to reach it, the cramped space left to pick up his knees in, and the soreness around his back, which had been a terrible new sensation in those days. Her little hand tugging. The weather, which had been too warm. He hated beach wear. He'd worn linen trousers in protest. He thought they looked quite good. Her hand pulling faster, and the sudden fear that they'd not brought toys. One of those crude red moulds of seashells she could have slapped onto the sand, or an inflatable ball, though he wasn't sure how well throwing and catching would go. The thing would have probably floated out on the water if she tried. So the question of how to entertain her, how to have fun, turned helplessly in his mind. They reached the shore. Sophia's mother watched them from the shade of a rented umbrella. Once they reached the sea, Sophia sat down in the water. Her father scooped her immediately back up. Patches of pink dress near her legs, and her bottom turned mauve instead, came up wetly, like a bruise. It seemed to bother him more than her. On being set down, she'd shrugged, moved 2 paces forward, sat down again. She'd begun pulling fistfuls of sand up and lumping them into a mound. After some consideration, her father crouched down too, rolled up the sleeves of his button-up and his trousers. He'd started gathering sand into his palms, sculpting more carefully than his daughter. He'd added a moat. He'd taken pebbles and stuck them near the tower's base, made his hand into a claw and dripped slurries of sodden material over the edifice until the sand formed turrets. Each time his daughter made to help, he batted her fingers away. Sophia's mother watched her do battle over a sandcastle, watched her pout and knock parts off as they were added, her father laughing, continuing to build. It had been exhausting to guard. Sophia's mother knew the beginnings of a tantrum when she saw one. Earlier that day she'd used one arm to lift her daughter slightly above ground, and another to slip a pair of blue gingham shorts under her feet while she thrashed. She'd tied a ribbon in the middle of the fabric's elasticated waist. She'd smoothed cotton. When it was done, Sophia had scowled. She shook her head. She prepared her bottom lip for conflict. This was a daily ritual. Sophia knew what she wanted. Another change of clothes. Another. Her father worked on his novel in the other room. The beach, the fat pulse of the sun and its resultant waves of lightheadedness. Sophia's mother touched her watch. She imagined swimming. She thought about how to do dinner that night. Remembered dinner the night before, courtesy of her husband's friend. Someone he hadn't seen in years. Another writer, whose daughter had been paid €15 to look after Sophia. A table of 8 other strangers her husband was excited to meet again. She sat on the far side of the arrangement, away from him. That she could not keep track of their names, though evidently few people knew hers. That she had worried whether a 16-year-old she didn't know was equipped enough to take care of her child. That it had been a night of not speaking, with a glass of red wine hovering under her chin by its stem, and recollections pooled by the others from university pubs she'd never been near. And, "Aren't you stunning?" her least favourite of them said. Gestured to the man she'd married 6 years ago. "Has he shagged you yet?" A pause, a smile, an argument on the way home. By the sea, Sophia's protests had subsided into laughter instead. She'd learned to make a sport of demolishment. Her mother wondered whether she had enough good humour to deliver her daughter's hat before she got sunburn, whether she'd put enough SPF on, considered the thick square of black polyester elastin blend flattening her breasts, and mulled over whether she had the time to buy something nicer. She was tired. When she woke from her nap, the time on the umbrella had run out. It, her husband and child, were gone. There'd been no note to explain the latter's departure, but she could picture it. Him gathering Sophia up, awkward but sure, with one hand supporting her thighs and the other on her shoulder, her mouth level with his ear. He liked to steal her away like that from time to time. When he did it, he would say something inane like, "Mummy needs a break," and smile at his own benevolence. It's an image she resented, a middle-aged man in damp linen trousers carrying her daughter. When a beach warden had asked whether, for the discounted price of €2.50, she would like the umbrella back, it had been the kindest thing she had ever heard. Pre-show. A woman over a tannoy is asking audience members to take their seats. August 2020. The back of the theatre is located on the west side of the building. Your first point of contact is Goods Inn. It looks like an industrial garage. Yellow walls, yellow floor. Wire racks stacked with stickered cardboard boxes attend them. Fresh air filters through the gap between the ground and the immense roll-up door. And the men who keep it all running move in perfectly ordained paths while they speak into headsets, while they coordinate deliveries for the gift shop and the costume department, receive post for the entire building. Handle.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?